about it. He devised a plan to kill an innocent victim. He carried out the plan in cold blood.
But at best, you have evidence of a man that's cheating, of a man that possibly didn't want to have another child. There's no evidence of him being in the car. There's no evidence of him coming around the front. There's no evidence of her reaching for a purse. There's no evidence of him pulling the trigger.
The story is based on real-life criminal cases. Some names, details, and events have been altered for privacy and dramatic purposes. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, certain information may not be factually verified. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some of these cases remain unsolved to this day.
The murder of Kailyn Fiengo, betrayed by the father of her unborn child. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Murder Mistress. Today's story takes us to Sanford, Florida, a small, tight-knit community that found itself at the center of an unthinkable tragedy. It is the story of an 18-year-old young woman named Kailyn Fiengo, full of promise, hope, and the anticipation of motherhood. A young woman whose life was cut short in one of the most heartbreaking and senseless acts of violence imaginable.
Supposed to meet up with her? No, I wasn't supposed to meet up with her. I was supposed to do nothing with her. We didn't have no conversation of meeting up, nothing.
A crime that not only shattered a family, but also left investigators and the entire community grappling with a single haunting question. How could the father of her unborn child pull the trigger? Before we continue, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode from Murder Mistress. Your support helps bring more awareness to these stories and gives a voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. Now, let us dive into the chilling case of Kailyn Fiengo and the man who turned from expectant father to convicted killer, Donovan Faison. It was the evening of November 11th, 2022, when officers with the Sanford Police Department responded to reports of a suspicious vehicle parked in the lot of Carver Park, a quiet neighborhood spot where families often gathered during the day. But that night, something was terribly wrong. When officers approached the car, they found a young woman inside, motionless and unresponsive. She had been shot to death. Her name was Kailyn Fiengo, just 18 years old, a new mother-to-be. She had her whole life ahead of her, but that life was stolen in a matter of moments. Investigators quickly discovered that she was pregnant, and what came next would send shockwaves through the community. Through phone records, messages, and interviews, detectives pieced together a horrifying truth. The man responsible for taking Kailyn's life was someone she knew intimately, the father of her unborn child, 21-year-old Donovan Faison. According to police, the events that led to the murder unfolded in a way that still defies reason. Donovan and Kailyn had known each other for some time. Their relationship was complicated, casual, perhaps, but with deep emotional ties. When Kailyn discovered she was pregnant, she reached out to Donovan, believing he had a right to know. But instead of joy, shock, or even confusion, Donovan's reaction was filled with anger and denial. He did not want a baby. In fact, as prosecutors later revealed, he already had a girlfriend, and the idea of another woman carrying his child was something he could not accept. Messages between the two revealed a growing tension. Donovan reportedly pressured Kailyn to terminate the pregnancy, while Kailyn, young and scared, tried to reason with him. She believed they could find a way forward, perhaps even co-parent, but Donovan saw the situation as a threat to his image, his relationship, and his future. That night in November, Kailyn agreed to meet Donovan at the park. She likely thought they would talk things through, maybe clear the air, but investigators believed Donovan had a much darker plan in mind. What happened in that car was brutal, swift, and devastating. Prosecutors later stated that Donovan shot Kailyn at close range, ending both her life and that of her unborn child. He then fled the scene, leaving her lifeless body behind in the driver's seat, a young woman who had trusted him, and a mother-to-be whose future would never come to be. The investigation moved quickly. Detectives gathered surveillance footage, text messages, and cell phone data that placed Donovan at the scene. When confronted, he initially denied involvement, but as evidence mounted, the picture became undeniable. Forensic analysis linked him directly to the crime. During questioning, investigators described Donovan as calm, too calm. There was no visible remorse, no emotion, no acknowledgement of the gravity of what he had done. It was as if he had already justified his actions in his mind. When the case went to trial in 2024, prosecutors argued that Donovan's motive was both selfish and cruel. He had killed Kailyn because he could not bear the thought of her having his child while he was involved with someone else. He viewed her pregnancy as a problem to be erased. The defense attempted to portray the crime as a moment of panic, an emotional outburst from a young man overwhelmed by fear. But the evidence told a different story. The prosecution presented chilling text messages showing Donovan's increasing hostility toward Kailyn, his anger over the pregnancy, and his repeated statements that he wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. Perhaps most haunting of all were the moments leading up to the murder. Prosecutors described how Kailyn, excited but nervous about her pregnancy, had confided in friends that she hoped Donovan would come around. She still believed there was a chance for peace.
And the defendant guilty of first-degree murder.
Tragically, she was wrong. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before finding Donovan Faison guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was filled with emotion. Kailyn's family members wept quietly, clutching one another as the verdict was read. For them, it was a measure of justice, but not healing. Nothing could bring back their daughter, their sister, their grandchild. As the trial moved into the sentencing phase, prosecutors and
About it, he devised the plan to kill an innocent victim. He carried out the plan in cold blood.
But at best, do you have evidence of a man that's cheating, of a man that possibly didn't want to have another child? There's no evidence of him being in the car. There's no evidence.
The death penalty. They argued that this was not just a crime of passion, but a deliberate and calculated act, one that took the lives of both a young woman and her unborn baby. The cruelty of the act, they said, warranted the harshest punishment allowed under Florida law. Kailyn's family described her as vibrant, kind, and full of love for life. Her mother spoke through tears about the moment she learned her daughter was gone, and the unbearable realization that she would never meet her grandchild. In her victim impact statement, she said, Kailyn was everything a mother could hope for: smart, loving, full of promise. She deserved to live. She deserved to be a mom. And that was stolen from her by someone she trusted. As details of the case spread, the story drew national attention, a grim reminder of how jealousy, fear, and control can escalate into deadly violence. Experts say the murder underscores the dangers faced by young women in abusive or manipulative relationships. What might begin as emotional control or intimidation can quickly turn violent, especially when a pregnancy becomes a point of conflict. For investigators, the case of Kailyn Fiengo was more than just another homicide. It was a tragedy that revealed how deeply personal relationships can spiral into horror when communication and care are replaced by rage and selfishness. As of now, Donovan Faison remains in custody, awaiting final sentencing. Whether he receives life in prison or the death penalty, the damage he inflicted can never be undone. The park where Kailyn was found has since become a quiet memorial. Friends and family occasionally visit, leaving flowers, candles, and messages of love. For them, it is not just a reminder of how she died, but of how she lived and how her memory continues to shine despite the darkness that ended her story. This case stands as a